Hello everyone. It's your girl Nicole Ryan, your debt diva with Lana Solutions. For those of you that are just tuning in and are new to the show, I am born and raised Omaha, Nebraska, and I've had my hands in financial literacy for over 24 years, right here in Omaha, Nebraska and the surrounding areas. So I decided to do this show so I could give you answers and options to all your financial hardships and just any type of financial questions you may come across. And don't be afraid to write us if you have certain questions, or reach out. We'll leave my information at the end of the show. You can definitely email or reach out to the TV station, and we'll see if we can get some of those quirky hardships taken care of. I've been able to have my hands in taxes, collections, medical debt, home loans and financing, banking, and pretty much anything you can think of when it deals with finances. I've also been blessed to partner up with several businesses and nonprofits here in Omaha, Nebraska that do a lot of work for our community. So when I say that, I'm talking about transportation, insurance, financial planning and investments, and so much more. Well, that's who I am. So if you're just tuning in, Debt Diva, that's the name of the show. I like to see debt eliminated at all costs. So whether it's personal or business, we don't have to walk around with a ton of debt for the rest of our life. There's ways to eliminate debt, and there's principles and practices that I have been blessed to do with my clients for many years. And like I said, the affiliates and the nonprofits and the people that I've been able to work with. So there is answers. So the last show, we talked a little bit about fear and removing fear. What I'd like to talk about today is spending and how to get away from spending habits that we can develop over the years and not even realize there's this addiction to either shopping or spending our money even before we have it, quote unquote, having to take out payday loans and borrow money from friends and family members. Well, what I've realized is that if we really take the time to study our spending habits, it helps us develop better habits when it comes to managing our purchases. So what I'd like you to be able to do today is just write down some of these steps so that you too can stop just spending and throwing away money. I realize over the years that our riches are in our scraps. So what's that mean? A lot of the extra money we're looking for is lying around in some of those bad spending habits. So I'd like to take a step back and remind you that if you are a swiper, is what I like to call people, is where they use their credit card just to constantly swipe for everything that they purchase, you can go to your bank, and you can either do this online or you can go to your bank. I prefer hard copies because I'm just old school like that, where I feel like if you really have to do the work, it pulls back and it slows down the process of getting better. So what I recommend is that you go to your bank and you get the last 3 months of all your transactions. So once you have this hard copy, and if you want to do it online, you can do it online. And if you're real savvy with Excel, a lot of the banks nowadays have it where you can go in and you can filter the expenses and categorize the transactions and the expenses, so you can truly see, oh wow, I spent $120 on Starbucks in the month of July. And it hits home in a way where You have to do it to really experience what it does to your psyche. It really exposes what you're doing day to day with your swiping of your debit and your credit cards. And if you're anything like some of the clients that I've experienced, you may have several accounts that you're using where you're just swiping all the time. So back in the old days, it used to be popular to have all the credit cards and be able to kind of show off a little bit, if you will, when it comes to pulling out, which cards you choose to use. If I could even compare it to smoking back in the days, it was like this popular thing to do, to light up a cigarette. But nowadays, not so much so. When you see people with a ton of credit cards, a lot of times you realize they're trying to manage debt. It's not real popular to see a ton of credit because we've gotten a lot wiser over the years, Same thing with cutting bad habits with regards to cigarettes. You rarely will even see anybody pull out one. But with that being said, when you pull these statements, and if you do it the way I prefer you to do it, and you pull the hard copies and you go in the bank or the drive-through window and you get a printout of those, go home, sit down, get a highlighter or two, and go through those transactions. And if you dare to, even take the time to think about the dates, like whether a lot of the frivolous spending is happening on the weekends, or maybe on a Monday or a Wednesday. And that way you can kind of tie it to the behaviors that day that would cause you to maybe spend a little more than you would normally spend. And this is the same thing for an annual review. When you really sit down with yourself if you're alone, or with family members as a group, and you start to have meetings around the money that you're spending. Because I'm going to remind you that spend means to throw out. And you need to consider that when you're in your jobs and you're working hour by hour. For some of us that are wage earners and we get paid by the hour. Those are, in most cases, hard-earned work that we tend to just throw away because there's a 70% off sale. Or it's just a $3 or $5 latte. I'm not saying don't enjoy yourself. What I am saying is we're going to have to get control of those frivolous spending, unconscious spending habits, because our riches are truly in those scraps. Those nickels and dimes and pennies that we throw away, if you take the time, Acorn and round up. Acorn is an app you can get where it will start to round up your pennies, nickels, and dimes. You'll realize that there's a lot of money there. And that is how our banks make most of their money, is by those small interest rates and fees and penalties that we tend to not pay attention to. So I'm asking you to start to pay attention. So you have your statements. You're going through each transaction for the last 3 months, and you're starting to realize, wait a minute, I'm throwing away tens or hundreds of dollars every month on maybe apps like Netflix, Disney, Lifetime. I can go on and on. Sirius XM, radio, and so many more. And then you'll start to realize you want to ask yourself, what is the return on my investment, my family's investment, or if you're a business owner, my bottom line? Is this making good sense to continue to pay $10, $15, $20 a month, which as you add that up for 12 months, that is anywhere from $140 to over $200 a month if you're only spending 10 to 20 a month. What could you be using that? Could that be 140 or 240 annually that you could be sowing into something else where you're able to get a compound interest on your money and get more money in your account? It's time to slow down and really pump the brakes on where our money is going. A wise teacher taught me that our money should have an assignment. So what does that mean? If I am bringing in $1,000 every 2 weeks, and I know that my traditional expenses should only be 25% of that monthly, but it's way over that, I have to consider if I'm going to bring in more money or I'm going to cut back on spending. And a lot of times, if you love your job and you love what you're doing, you'll find out that you can find other streams of income. The wealthy say you have to have at least 7 streams of income. And you can find those find that income doing things that you're passionate about. But over the past couple of decades of working with consumers and helping them eliminate debt and credit, I've come to realize it doesn't matter how many jobs you have or how much income you have. If you don't get control of spending habits, when you get more money, you just become a bigger you. So if you're already a spender, you will spend even bigger as more money comes in. And if you don't believe me, Google some of the celebrities that have had to file bankruptcy. So we are living in the United States of America, what some say the richest country in the world. And we have more people filing bankruptcy than you can imagine. This is at a rate where we had to establish bankruptcy laws to stop people from filing it every year. Now you have to wait at least 8 years, 7 to 8 years before you can file it because of the spending and because of circumstances too. I don't want to write that off. I know that life happens, and that is one of the main reasons why we have to build emergency funds, savings accounts, and investments so that we are insured and we are covered when life hits. And if you watch any of the shows prior to this one, I'll always highlight COVID because I feel like it grabbed everybody by storm. And it put a lot of us in vulnerable positions where the money was not available. And there was a lot of pivoting and different things that businesses and family members had to do to survive. So if anything, let that be a lesson that, hey, you know what? Debt Diva is right. We have got to sit down and we've got to start to manage our finances. And one of the best ways to start is to study your spending habits and find out what type of spender you are. Because I hate to say it, I don't know exactly how soon this is being aired, but the holidays are right around the corner. And Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas are some of the biggest holidays of spending. So keep that in mind. And it's never too late to pull back the reins and say, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to study my habits and I'm going to have that meeting with myself, with my family, or with my staff and my coworkers if you are a business owner. And you may just be a sole proprietor. Well, maybe right now it is you and you don't have a ton of employees yet. But if we are looking, even as small business owners, to move the needle and to get out of the red and be in the black, we've got to take a look and we have to audit our own accounts and we got to do the work that's necessary. So another thing I like to highlight when it comes to spending, of course, studying your habits, cutting back where you need to cut back, bringing in more earned income where we need to bring in more earned income, right? I like to talk about the illusion of wealth is what a good friend of mine from Ameriprise taught me. There is this illusion nowadays that we have to have bigger and better to function, to mean anything. What we have to do, we have to learn how to be content with what we have. And a good way of doing that is studying wealthy people. If you study wealthy people, especially those with generational wealth or some of those that have reached the 2 and 1%, where they're in the billions or the high hundreds of millions of dollars, some of them, if you look them up and you Google them, you don't even know them. And it's like that for a reason, because they have a habit that I've seen over the last couple of decades of just securing and hiding their wealth. You will rarely see them wearing it. You'll see that working with a lot of savvy business owners that bring in millions, you'll see that they count the cost. They have budgeted, they forecast, they have regular meetings where they keep an eye on every penny that is coming into that business or the family, or whatever they are choosing to do at the time. They are creators. They are innovators. They are not sitting around whining about what they don't have. And don't get me wrong, we have seen in the news how even our own Warren Buffett stays in the same house, or the car that he drives, or the clothes that he wears. You'll find that they spend a lot of time investing in nonprofits and getting behind objectives that are going to make the lives of other people better. I found in that piece alone, studying my own habits and then studying the habits of the wealthy, you can learn a lot. And if you watch the other shows, you know that I'm real big on wisdom and how it will trump ignorance. And then we have the option and the answers that we need to do better. So take some time after viewing this show and sit down and contact your bank, and they can even have the past 90-day history ready for you to just come pick up. Like, you can call ahead of time. And if you don't want to do it the slow, hard way, get access to all your bank accounts and start studying your transactions. Get you an online folder and start to save your transactions. And you'll get to a point where you can even sit back and look over the years. And if you really want to get fancy with it, or you need some help, don't be afraid to reach out, because like I said, if you mention this show, I will lead and I will guide you as much as I can. But there's a lot of fancy things you can do where you can set things up where it can just you can get like a monthly report that kind of pops up in your email. But we're going to have to study those habits, you guys, and we're going to have to stop spending. We're going to have to be content with what we have and where we're at, and cut back where we need to. And if that means connecting with some of these amazing resources here in Omaha, Nebraska to help us get wealthier and healthier, then let's make sure we do that. Because if you even go on some of the social media platforms and look at what like One Community is doing and some of these other places, even your local YMCAs and Omaha 100s and Family Housing Advisory, Empowerment Network, Omaha 360. You guys, we have no excuse not to tap in. Chariots for Hope, Home Team Auto Sales. What am I forgetting? There is Martin Williams International. There's churches, you guys, if you are believers, you can connect to, that do a lot of financial literacy programs, consumer credit councils or counseling of Nebraska. They're all over Nebraska. And if you tap into some of their resources, it's just, there's so much here. And then don't forget about me, Lana Solutions. I'm always going to be here to help. I have a heart for our community and just to see us all get better. And I do this Dead Diva show to just really pump the brakes and slow down and get in your living room and in your office space or in your car, wherever you're listening or watching this, to help you to just take the step-by-step daily behaviors and routines to pull out of this. Because I know and I understand all too well how debt can cripple and paralyze dreams. So it's your girl, Nicole Ryan, with Lana Solutions, your debt diva, here for you. Wait until I see you next time. Have a beautiful day, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is you're watching this. Until next time.